day of March 2017, the World International Women's Day. A very happy one to all the women out there. Many thanks for joining us here on KTN News Desk. Among the top stories we have at this hour is the visit by United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres in the country. Our reporter Mark Namaswa will be joining us from our city center studios with details on some of the engagements he had with the President Uhuru Kenyatta, as well as what happened in Mathare, where our reporter Rita Tinina is. We'll also be taking a look at the gains that women have made over the years. We'll be speaking to Grace Uwizeye, who is in charge of FGM and harmful practices at Equality Now. The theme this year is a planet 50-50 before we get to 2030. Is this sustainable? She will be telling us more on the same, as well as it is day 2 of the Devolution Conference. We will be crossing over there to just take a look at some of the conversations that are ongoing in Naivasha. Many thanks for joining us here. Let's first take a look at the highlights. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres holds talks with President Uhuru Kenyatta. 3 perish in a road accident involving 3 trailers at Isinya in Kajiado County. Kenyatta National Hospital fires 13 medical officers for failure to report to work. Good afternoon. Our sign language interpreter is William Sila, and I am Akisa Wandera. Now, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres this morning held talks with President Uhuru Kenyatta at State House here in Nairobi. Guterres emphasized Kenya's strategic regional importance in solving humanitarian crises such as in South Sudan, Somalia, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Burundi. The gender agenda was also discussed. Let us listen in to what the two leaders had to say.
Not only because of its governance capacity, but because of its vibrant civil society, its business community, its free press. Kenya is an example in all aspects that can be copied not only in the African continent but around the world, proving that in today's international community there are countries that are moving in order to make sure that the 3 pillars of the UN activity can be fully met: peace and security, sustainable and inclusive development, and human rights.
The Secretary General also is in Kenya on an important day, Women's Day, and we wish to acknowledge his presence here on this most important day, and also to assure him of Kenya's support for this agenda, and that we as a country will continue to do everything that we can to ensure greater inclusivity, both at the political, social, and developmental levels, because we believe strongly that by engaging and ensuring that women of Kenya are actively engaged in development is actually helping us achieve both growth, sustainable development, and greater equity.
All right, those are snippets from that address by President Uhuru Kenyatta and the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres. Let's now speak to our reporter, Mark Namaswa, who's joining us from our city center studios with more details. A very good afternoon to you, Mark. What are some of the most important points that came out of that particular engagement?
Thank you, Akisa. Some of the key points that were discussed today between Antonio Guterres and President Uhuru Kenyatta concern the Horn of Africa and the Great Lakes region. They discussed concerning the turmoil in South Sudan, the turmoil in Somalia, Burundi, as well as DRC Congo. And they also emphasized on the strategic geopolitical positioning of Kenya in addressing some of these issues. Looking at some of the issues that have been facing the Horn of Africa, remember we have the Dadaab camp that is being closed down, has been hosting over 400,000 refugees from Southern Sudan, from Somalia, etc. And those are some of the issues that were being discussed today. And looking at Antonio Guterres, whether by accident, design, coincidence, or whatever, his visit fell smack into the International Women's Day. And looking at his history, he has in the past been the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees after being the Prime Minister of Portugal, and he has been keen on humanitarian issues. Part of his itinerary will head to the Dadaab refugee camp, and those are some of the things they were discussing. Given that Kenya has gone ahead of not only being a paragon of democracy in East and Central Africa, but it has also narrowed down to issues such as basic human rights, and that is where we narrow down to gender issues. Akisa.
Something very important about Kenya being at the center of some of the things that are happening in other countries like South Sudan and Somalia. But we've always had the refugee question, and sometime last year we had the president say that they will be taking them back into the country. Was this in any way addressed?
Yes. President Uhuru Kenyatta referred to the issue of the Dadaab refugee camp, and though he did not state it directly, but he said that Kenya still maintains the resolve to be able to comfortably and in a humane way enable the refugees to head back to their original homeland. And part of the strategy was being able to stabilize their home countries, including Southern Sudan and Somalia. And if we take Antonio Guterres' sentiments concerning Somalia, he also emphasized the need for the regional bodies or countries in the region, such as Kenya, to be able to support the democratic process in Somalia. Remember, Somalia has recently elected a new president, and the hope, according to President Uhuru Kenyatta, is that the stability of Somalia will enable the peaceful and humane repatriation of refugees from the Dadaab camp to a safer homeland that they originally came from. Akisa.
Thank you very much for that update. He's joining us from our city center studios. Let's now cross over to Mathare, where the visiting United Nations Chief Antonio Guterres visited Mathare slums here in Nairobi. Our reporter Rita Tinina is in Mathare and now joins us live. Rita, thank you very much for joining us. Residents of Mathare must be so excited about this visit.
Well, there wasn't much of excitement here. Many people around didn't know who exactly is around. They said they were just informed by the chiefs, by the police, just to stay in their homes, not to be loitering around these corridors here. And so most people, except those who had organized this visit, knew who was coming, as well as the youth from the one-stop youth center here in Mathare. They were here to welcome the UN Secretary General. It was a very brief visit, 21 minutes only he spent here. He arrived, was met by UN officials. He was accompanied by Environment Minister Professor Judy Wahungu. He arrived, cut a ribbon to a football pitch, met women representatives on this International Day of Women, who told him their challenges, their aspirations. And so he also taken through a very innovative education idea. We'll come to that shortly. But I'm now with a lady who had that rare opportunity to meet the UN Secretary General, Wanjiko Kibe. If you can just come over.
Thank you.
Perhaps you can tell us, how was it meeting the...
It's exciting. He's a humble person, and he was very keen listening to our experiences. And we shared our experiences here in Kenya. He wanted to know what we are doing to increase the women representation in leadership, and most importantly, in the political leadership. And we shared, of course, the challenges we face on the ground. Currently, I'm vying for the position of MP Gatundu North. And as a woman, you have to work extra hard because, of course, there are perceptions that women, this is not their field. There's also resources, constraints in financial resources, other issues of gender-based violence. And what he assured us is that he's also committed to ensure that we have higher numbers of women representation, and also told us that this is not isolated in Kenya. The same challenges face women also vying in political leadership and other leadership positions in other countries. So we are very much encouraged, we are happy, and we look forward for support and to ensure that now that we were not able to pass the two-thirds and affirmative gender bill in Parliament, we are out there hunting for votes and selling our manifesto, and we are excited and looking forward to be elected.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us. On my left, I'm now joined by Duncan Mochama. He also had that opportunity to meet the UN Secretary General, but he has a very innovative idea. Education, digital education in every part of the country, trying to reach the marginalized, all those who need education. Duncan, maybe you can just tell us about this idea.
Okay, so this, we call it the digital education in a box, a rugged solution where if you can wheel it into a classroom, you can wheel it into a center, then you convert that into a digital classroom. Now the students, either in Maralal, in Kor, or in Nairobi, then they get the same level of education. And that's our vision, just to enable the millions of children across emerging markets get quality education. And
How does it work?
we understand that there is infrastructural problems. Yeah, so here we're trying to solve the power and connectivity problem. Wheel this into a classroom, get the box, and you'll have charged it at night. Yeah, a teacher can be able now to get different content. As you can see here, we have learn, play, and grow, and that is the basic fundamental process that a child goes through. So in the learn section, we have different content, whereby it could be Tusome content which the government is trying to promote, and with that, you're able now to at least have something in the classroom. Yeah.
How many pupils or students can you teach at a go? I see this box. How many pieces of tablets that you have?
So here we have 40 tablets, which they can use simultaneously. If a school gets one, then they can use it in different classes, because the content in there can be able to take care of from class 1 to class 8. We have revision materials in there. We have storybooks, we have videos, we have audio, and all that now brings it into a package, whereby we have a rugged box. Put it out in the weather, you're good to go. If you drop it, then again you're not afraid. The teacher is not afraid, and learning continues. You charge it at a go, so you put in once you put it in the box, it charges all of them at once. So if you're in a school where there is no power yet, you can take it into the center, charge it the entire night, and use it the entire day.
How many schools, how many pupils or students have benefited so far?
So right now in Kenya, there are around 57 schools, both centers, children homes, primary schools, and 1 or 2 secondary schools, and even women who are using it in their communities. Yeah.
Thank you very much. That was Duncan Mochama just taking us through the demonstration that he gave to the UN Secretary General. A very important visit for Kenya, one of the countries that he has visited in his second visit to Africa. He was in Africa earlier on in the year when he attended the AU summit in Addis Ababa. And so today, since the State House visit, he went to the International Women's Day function and came here to Mathare at Mlango Kubwa. We also understand he will be having a press briefing later on in the day after meeting UN staff at the UN complex in Gigiri. Akisa.
Rita, thank you very much for that. Our senior reporter, Rita Tinina, there joining us from Mathare, where, as she reports, the United Nations Secretary General has just concluded his visit. And Rita says he was there for 21 minutes. And, of course, we'll be giving you more details about what is happening there. Now, a student was seriously injured last evening, and property worth thousands of shillings destroyed after fire gutted down a dormitory at a boarding high school in Siaya County. Now, the injured student, who is currently at a hospital in Kisumu, was inside the dormitory at the time the fire broke out. According to the school principal, the students heard an explosion before the fire broke out. The dormitory was housing more than 150 students.
It was around 9 in the night when students just came out after break that there was an explosion in that Venus dome that had a capacity of 200 students, but currently we have 175 students. The rest of the students were in class So the security and students, officials who were standing around here, rushed down when they heard the explosion, and then afterwards, some smoke. When they rushed there, other students also from class followed them because they were shouting fire, as they have been told in the drills. Mainly the reason why they were rushing so much is because one of the students was sick, and they knew that he was actually in the dome. Fortunately, that boy had been taken to hospital by the boarding master, and they did know at around 7:30. When the teachers were blocking them from entering the dome because of security, because of risk, they saw Kiwiliwili, they saw a shadow. Kumbe, there was another student struggling to get out. The boy might have, without knowledge of anybody, crept back to the dome. So that is the boy that got injuries, was rushed to CI because of the situation in health.
All right, let's now shift our focus to matters that doctors, officials of the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Union are holed up in a meeting at their headquarters at KMA to discuss the new turn of events regarding doctor strike. The medics are expected to announce their new move following a decision by the national government and the county governments to withdraw their pay offer. Our reporter Nicholas Umboa is closely following up that story and now joins us live. Thank you very much for joining us, Nick. What exactly should we expect from this meeting?
Thank you very much, Akisa. And just what we know right now is that the Kenya Medical Association, together with the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Union, are meeting currently to discuss the orders by the president yesterday. So he announced that the 50% pay rise offer to the doctors is now withdrawn, together with the 600 million for risk allowances, all withdrawn. So now, Akisa, what the doctors here meeting the KMA to discuss is the way forward into the doctor strike. And this is a coincidence because yesterday the court had ruled that giving the doctors and the government a week to discuss, to see the signing of the CBA, the revised CBA, together with the return to work formula, which the doctors and the government were in contention. And now the issue was a wait to sign first between the CBA and the return to work formula, whereby the government is seeking to have the return to work formula signed first. And then the doctors also want the CBA signed before the return to work. So this is what currently they're meeting to discuss, and therefore by the end of the day they are going to come up with a solution that they're going to announce and on what to follow. Akisa, something else that they may also be discussing is the purported issuance of letters to some of the doctors in the Kenyatta National Hospital, whereby they were dismissed. Around 13 of them is reported, and therefore we are expecting also that they are going to be addressing the matter on the stand of the government that issued or that announced that the doctors who have not been serving for the time since December 5th, they are going to face it. We also saw the chairman of the Council of Governors yesterday announcing that the doctors go back to work. And for those that will not go back to work, then they are going to face the full force of the law, that is from the government. That means that they will be dropped from their jobs. So we are waiting to see what the KMA and the KMPDU come up with after their meeting. Back to Akisa.
Nick, thank you very much for that update. Our reporter Nick Omboa there joining us live from the KMA, where he reports that doctors' union officials are holed up in a meeting to come up with a way forward after that announcement between the government and the county governments. But also remember, 13 doctors from the Kenyatta National Hospital have also been fired, and we will be definitely following up this developing story for you. But at this point, let's take a short commercial break. Don't go too far. We still have a lot lined up for you here on KTN News Desk. Right, welcome back. You are watching KTN News Desk. Many thanks for staying with us. Today is the International Women's Day, and this is a day to commemorate the achievements and challenges facing women worldwide. Kenya, too, has not been left behind in the celebrations. And in our studio today, we have Grace Wizeye to discuss this day on the milestones and challenges facing women in Kenya. Grace is in charge of FGM and harmful practices at equality now. Thank you very much for coming in. Happy International Women's Day.
Happy International Women's
Must be so
Day.
exciting. So the theme is Planet 50-50 for 2030. Do you think we are on course to get to that?
Well, so far we have made gains in making sure that we are at 50-50 by 2030 in terms of having laws in place that protect women from violence, that impedes them from achieving their, having their fruitful life. So far we have these laws, we have the constitution that offers the two-third gender role, but however, the challenges has been in implementing these laws. Yes, so that's where we have the main challenge right now.
You talk about the two-thirds gender rule, and every time people think about equality, especially in leadership, we go back to that rule that has been shot down not once but about 3 times in both houses of the National Assembly. How bad has this affected women, especially when it comes to leadership in this country?
As the UN Secretary General says, Guterres, he says that in order to have development, whether in political, social, and economic development, we need to have women in decision-making positions. So without women, many women will not be able to access justice, to access any other basic rights they need.
There has been an aggressive fight on some of the harmful practices that I think is your day-to-day work, harmful practices, FGM, especially in the grassroots levels. The fight has been aggressive, but we'll still get instances where young children or young girls are forced to get married, they're forced to get circumcised and whatnot. You have been working with this, especially down at the grassroots levels. How bad is it? Are we making an improvement in terms of how many young girls are taken away from this and just go to school?
Yes, we have made great improvements in Kenya in terms of making sure that girls are protected from FGM and child marriage. So if you look at the statistics, Kenya is going, the prevalence of FGM is going down by 5% from 2008 up to 2015. So the practice have been going down. But however, again, the challenge has always been in terms of implementing the laws, where we need different services, to different institutions to work together to make sure that the girls are protected from undergoing FGM, because that's what we need. We need girls to be protected from FGM and also child marriage, to be subjected to child marriage. So that's where we need all different actors. You're talking about teachers, we're talking about medical practitioners, police, the prosecutors, to all come in and work together and make sure that the girls are protected.
So what are we saying? There's not much commitment to fight this, especially in areas where traditions take precedence?
You find that in most of these practicing communities, even the leaders who come from those communities still believe in these practices. So they don't want also to talk against these traditions which they believe in, because either they are thinking that they are going to lose their vote coming, especially with the upcoming elections. So you find that the leaders from those communities are really not talking about these issues and telling their communities to abandon the practice.
According to you, just from your opinion, what are some of the modern day challenges that women go through that serve as an impediment from them to achieve what they ought to?
For example, as I was saying, look at FGM or child marriage, for example, in the communities such as the Maasai, whereby when a girl is cut, she's immediately married off. Therefore, all her future just is basically ended. So she drops out of school, she's married, and that's it. So those are some of the challenges, the modern day challenges that women face and young girls face in this day and age.
With the new constitution came more positions for women. In 2013, we voted for women representative across all the 47 counties, and this was seen as an affirmative action. But would you look at this as a milestone? What more do we need to do to get more women into leadership in this country?
Yes, what we need is actually to implement that two-third rule. Let's have it passed in Parliament, and let's have all the political parties make sure that they implement it within their own parties, making sure that we have women who are standing up for political positions, so that we can have two-third gender role within our Parliament.
When you talk about parties, we are heading into nominations in the next few weeks for both Jubilee and the opposition, of course. How would you describe how parties embrace women leadership? Because you can't vote for a woman who didn't pass the nomination test.
This is why we need the two-thirds gender rule, to make sure that the political parties actually include it in their process in terms of nominations, to make sure that women are allocated seats, are allocated nominations within their political parties. Yes.
All right, and we say, as we wait for the two-thirds gender rule, it has not been implemented. It has not even passed the National Assembly. Do you think political parties are really committed to having more women in leadership, even without the two-thirds gender rule?
Well, with the upcoming elections in August, and we have seen so far what's been happening within the political parties, we can easily say that they're not committed in terms of making sure that the women are represented within their parties. They're not committed in terms of making sure that women have the seats or the nominations within their parties.
Among the reasons we got from men in leadership as to why this bill is not passing, most people are looking at it as women just want this thing on a silver platter. Why not fight it out like men do? Is this a misunderstanding or a misconception regarding this rule, or we are not just sensitized enough about what this would mean for our country if it happens?
Okay, if I can bring you back to the interview you just aired about the lady who is running for the MP for the Gatundu North.
Gatundu.
She mentioned some of the challenges she's facing right now because she realized that the parties are not going to go out there and give them nominations, so she has to go in the community and campaign for the vote. So some of the challenges she highlighted is financial restraints in terms of making sure that she's out there really campaigning, and also the society we live in, whereby we believe that only men can rule. You know, they don't see women as leaders. They only see, so you need to go out in the community again and have to tell the communities to go ahead and vote for a woman. So this is the reason why we need the two-thirds gender rule, because once the women are elected in parliament, then the community, the society will see that women can also rule. Then they will change their attitude, their conception towards the women as in leadership.
So what is Equality Now doing to ensure that by 2030 we achieve this in their own small way?
So what Equality Now is doing is again coming back to the government of Kenya and asking them to implement the laws that have been put in place to make sure that that two-thirds gender role that has been put in the constitution is actually passed and implemented, so that by 2030 we have the 50-50 gender parity in leadership.
Great. We will definitely be seeing how that goes. Thank you very much, Grace, for coming. And Grace Uwizaye from Equality Now, she's in charge of FGM and harmful practices, in a conversation here as we celebrate the International Women's Day. Thank you once again for making time for us. But away from that, Kenya's first education minister, Joseph Otiende, is dead. Otiende died early this morning at Avenue Hospital in Kisumu County, and Otiende had been hospitalized for 2 months. Amani National Congress leader Musalia Mudavadi has eulogized the late Otiende as a diligent elder whose advisory services were enriching. He was 100 years old. Our reporter Rashid Ronald, who is joining us from Kisumu, we are just trying to get the mood there after the news of the death of the first education minister, Joseph Otiende. Very good afternoon to you, Rashid. Thank you for joining us. This is the first minister for education in the cabinet of Jomo Kenyatta. Do most people know about him, really?
Yeah, thank you very much, Akisa. And of course, I wouldn't say that people who've read the country's history since independence, people who've been reading the political movement since independence, actually do know Joseph Otiende. Remember, he was the first education cabinet minister appointed by the founding father of the nation, President Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, back way in 1963, appointed him as education minister. So for people who've been reading about the history of Kenya, of course, they know about this man who was popularly known as JD. And as we speak right now, I'm here at Avenue Hospital in Kisumu. This is where he passed away this morning. I can say Wednesday morning, early morning today, of course. And earlier on, members of his families were here. They refused to speak to the media, only telling us that they are saddened by his death. The man has been ailing for a while now, suffering from diabetes. And when he was brought here 2 months ago, he was under ICU up to early this morning when he died. And of course, he's leaving a legacy, a long legacy. This man was born in 1917 at Akelo village in Vihiga County. We said that he was one of Kenya's pioneer cabinet minister, Akisa Wandera.
What does the family say? We have had that Musalia Mudavadi, co-principal of NASA, has already eulogized him. Have any local leaders or out of the country eulogized him as well? And of course, what is the family saying?
So far, no one has done that, but I'm told there is a somber mood back in Vihiga, in his village. There are people saying that they've lost a true leader, a visionary leader, a leader who actually helped many in the region, Akisa.
Rashid, thank you very much for that. Rashid Ronald there joining us from Kisumu County, specifically the Avenue Hospital, where the first minister for education in this country passed on this morning at the age of 100. And as Rashid says, at his home in Vihiga, people say that they have lost a true leader. He was the first education cabinet secretary in the cabinet of Mzee Jomo Kenyatta in the year 1963, just after Kenya gained independence. Now, the Kenyan government is announcing plans to reintroduce the stalled Mtongwe ferry services that were halted 5 years ago. The state says this will help in easing congestion at the main Likoni Channel, which serves about 300,000 people daily.
Mama Caroline Awino has been selling fish for over 2 decades. She has earned a reputation with her service that continues to attract many customers. 23 years ago, her husband perished in the tragic Mtongwe ferry accident, and she has been left with a burden to fend for her family. The dark past notwithstanding, many residents, including Mama Wino, are looking forward to the new services.
Hata katika hiyo mkasa, hata mimi mmoja wapo nilipoteza bwana hapo. Hasa ni wachunge usalama ya abiria.
Small traders here in Mtongwe know too well that the re-establishment of the ferry services will increase their daily earnings.
Naona itanisaidia kwa kunivusha haraka kwenda kuleta mali. Itanipunguzia ile gharama ya kuzunguka huku Likoni.
Sasa kila mmoja atafurahia kwa hii, sababu feri imekuja Nyeri hapa, itakuwa watoto wanavuka na hii kivuko mpaka taoni. Mwenye mkuu atembea na mkuu, wenye matatu aingia matatu, feri ngambo ile, tutafurahika sana.
Mtongwe ferry bears a dark past when in April 1994, the MV Mtongwe ferry bound for the mainland capsized just 40 meters from port, killing 272 of the 400 people on board. The ill-fated ferry is said to have been overloaded. For several years, they've depended on the Likoni Channel.
Last week tulikuwa huko, tumepitia kuangalia wamefika wapi, lakini tunataka wananchi wapate huduma ya kisawa.
Construction work has already begun. Authorities say they intend to reintroduce new facilities, including toilets and facilities for the physically challenged. President Uhuru Kenyatta is expected to officiate the commissioning of the new ferry.
Washrooms ni muhimu sana pande zote mbili, tuhakikishe kwamba zipo na ziko na maji na ziko sawa. Maona.
And even as the new project goes underway, the county government of Mombasa has not stopped castigating the national government for extending an illegality. They are citing Schedule 4 Part 2 of the Constitution as having expressly given them the mandate to manage the county's transport systems, including the ferries and harbors.
If this is very clear in the Constitution, but somebody is holding on to this function, then we must ask ourselves why. There must be a question mark. Why? Why is it so lucrative? It's for sure got to do with private interest.
Although Balala say they support the project, they want this done consultatively. Over 2 decades ago, what has been described as Kenya's worst maritime tragedy occurred a few meters from where I'm standing. the reintroduction of the Mtongwe ferry will no doubt reignite the sad memories. But most importantly, it ushers in a fresh dawn in the social-economic welfare of the residents here. Francis Ntomwa, KTN News, Mtongwe, Mombasa.
Thank you, Francis, for that. Migori County Governor Okoth Obado has told off his critics over corruption allegations, saying they should instead focus on politics of development. Obado says whoever has evidence of corruption within his government should table evidence instead of engaging in rumor-mongering and damning report about the Senate Public Accounts Committee on 10 counties. Obado was among the governors who were found to have allegedly misappropriated public funds.
Ndani sana na hii ofisi team 44, mimi nilisikia mtu akiongea ile lugha ingine ngumu kidogo kwangu. Hii team 44, watu wa ODM, viongozi, mmekuwa hapa wote. Tunaifungua ama hatufungui? Mchunge kura zetu wakati wa nomination. Tutachunga kura zetu. Wacha tuone hiyo. Tutachunga kura zetu wakati wa nomination. Tukimaliza hiyo tuchunge kura yetu ya tarehe 8 mwezi wa 8. Ni kweli? Hiyo tangazo tumepokea vizuri. Mimi nahakikishia mkifanya hivyo, Governor, hao watu wamesema watachunga.
Away from politics, an estimated 2.7 million Kenyans continue to be affected by the current drought situation in the country that has now spread to 23 counties since it was declared a national disaster on February the 10th. However, the number of those affected may increase to 4 million if the anticipated long rains fail.
The severe drought experienced in the country has a significant impact on the already strained livelihoods and is exacerbating the food insecurity among the poor and most vulnerable households.
So as government, we are doing quite a lot. They have lost quite a number of animals. In some areas, almost 40% of their stock. But we want to buy these animals from them, and part of it will be used as part of the relief food.
Mandera, Wajir and Kilifi are among 23 counties that have so far been affected. 13 of those counties have also been declared to be in the alert drought phase.
These 3 million are the ones who need assistance today. And in some counties, like Kilifi, which was in extreme, almost getting into the red, had been brought back to now being requiring assistance, but not as extreme as it was before.
Despite the efforts by international aid agencies and the Kenyan government, projection reveals that the number of those that will be in dire need of relief assistance may double by April.
The fact that the numbers have increased from the 1.3 to 2.7, and now one can easily, through the government, say the numbers are about 3 million, and the numbers may go higher depending on the weather, and it's quite clear that the projection of the government had been through NDMA that the numbers may even go, God forbid, but as high as 4 million.
On February 10th, the government declared the drought a national disaster and appealed to development partners to assist and supplement efforts in addressing the issue. And now, the Danish government has responded through its established long-term development cooperation to address the acute need for water in arid and semi-arid affected areas.
Siku ya leo wametupa shilingi milioni 150 ambayo tutatumia sasa kujaribu kusambaza maji kupitia Water Service Trust Fund, na tutakuwa tunashirikiana na shirika la Msalaba Mwekundu na Bwana Abasa ako hapa ili kujaribu kuhakikisha maji yanafikia wale walioathirika, na vile vile tunaendelea kurekebisha maboreholes na kupeana water tanks katika sehemu hizi ambazo malori ya maji sasa yatapelekea Wakenya maji.
And as the drought continues to bite, the Cabinet Secretary for Water and Irrigation, Eugene Wamalwa, is urging the county governments of the affected areas to realign their budgets to help address the current drought situation.
Now, the Kenya National Union of Teachers and the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers Union, KUPPET, have challenged the government to ensure marginalized learners get quality and accessible education. The two unions have faulted Education Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i of Education Reforms and asked him to resign. NATS Secretary General Wilson Sosion was speaking in a workshop in Kajiado.
The shortage of teachers is 1,200. So that means there are 1,200 classrooms that are going without teachers every day, every learning minute. 1,200 children are not taught. 1,200. 1,200. But we have, do you need the laptop or you need the teacher? What would be the priority? You need the teacher. 17 billion has gone to the laptops. And we need 18 billion to have the requirement of teachers. What is the priority? Between the laptop and teachers, to me it should be teachers. And to us it should be teachers. And when I talk against the laptop, it doesn't mean I'm against the Jubilee manifesto. It was brought by Jubilee. Nevertheless, they've implemented it. But why can't you provide enough resources to hire enough teachers?
Now, the Kenya International Freight and Warehousing Association has distanced itself from the latest wrangles in the clearing and forwarding sector. Through their chairperson, Eric Gitonga, they distanced themselves from the claim that they're colluding with KRA in their quest for issuance of trading licenses.
What came out was just about, it's just a matter of changing our names, and we strongly condemn that action because it's misleading the public and the clearing fraternity in full. Whatever came out was just a way of trying to show that we are not working as the board members, of which I believe what we are doing is enough for our members. We are still advocating for our members, but they have tied our hands by going to court. And the case that is in court, the case number 7107 of 2016, which is coming for hearing on 10th, that is Friday, in Nairobi. This case is about the stopping of the officials from operating or being in office, and it's not about the licensing issue. He has confused the public that when he's going to court with them, they are going to talk about licenses, that they are going to be licensed. That's why they are going to court in numbers. But I would want the members of public, and especially the clearing and forwarding officials and members, to study this case number 7107, 2016, and see what it entails. The document is very clear. They went to court to stop us from operating and to close the bank accounts of all board branches, Nairobi and Mombasa. So when they are going to court and they are told it's about the licensing, it is a lie.
Now, 3 people died on the spot after 3 trailers were involved in an accident between Isinya and Kajiado town along the Namanga Road. The accident happened at around 8 o'clock last evening after one of the trailers reportedly developed a mechanical problem. Senior OCPD Stephen Weda confirmed the deaths. The bodies were taken to Kajiado Referral Hospital mortuary. All right, that's all we had for you at this hour, and definitely sorry for Arsenal fans. We hear some of them are yet to recover from that loss, but we wrap it up on that note. Many thanks for joining us here on the KTN News Desk. Remember, among the top stories we have for you at this hour is that visit in the country of the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, as well as the doctors' union officials, are currently holed up in a meeting, charting a way forward after the announcement by the government to withdraw the offer they had made. All right, thank you very much for joining us. My name is Akisa Wandera. Sign language interpreter has been William Silla. Up next, Derderin Bira comes in with Business Today. Good afternoon.